All right, guys. Hi. Well, this is gonna be an awkward video. How do you even like start a video like this? Hello. Oh, let's just restart this. All right. What's up, everyone? God, I don't know why this is so awkward for me. Okay, so the way that this was kind of brought up was I did my fitness story video, and a lot of you guys liked it. And I did mention in that video that I had a stalker at one point in my life. Someone put in the comment section like, we want to hear your stalker story, and I don't remember how many thumbs up it got, but it was like hundreds of people. I had people tweeting me, messaging me, emailing me, asking me to tell the story. So here I am. I have goosebumps. This isn't like, I don't know why I'm so uncomfortable, like kind of uncomfortable telling the story, I guess, because it was really uncomfortable for me at the time, and it was very, I don't even know how to explain it. For a long time, I didn't tell anybody about this story because it was kind of, I guess, like a little traumatic. I think that any girl in this situation, you know, would have a hard time dealing with it. I didn't have a hard time dealing with it. Like I don't know, I've always thought very realistically, and gosh, I don't even know. Okay, let me just tell you the story. I used to work at a coffee shop. It was called Mocha Moose in North Pole, Alaska. And I worked there for, oh gosh, I think 4 years. And you're by yourself in this hut, so it's not like you have a boss breathing down your neck. There was, you know, girls, guys, families, all kinds of people that would come by. This guy started coming by, and you know, I'd make him his hot chocolate or whatever he would get. It wasn't even be coffee, it was some kind of hot chocolate. And as I would say, oh no, you know, here's your coffee, have a great day. And he would say, well, I'm not ready to leave yet. I want to talk to you. How is your day going? And I'm like, good, how's your day? And he was just trying to, I guess, get close to me, like find out about my family and stuff like that. I felt very uncomfortable answering the question, so someone would come behind him in line and he would have to move on, which I was glad. We were a very busy coffee cart, so he didn't stay very long. He did that once or twice, and then I started getting uncomfortable. So I think it was like the second time he tried doing that, I was like, oh, there's a car behind you, you know, you have to move along. So he goes to the other side of the window and he would just wait there. At that point, I was just kind of like, I didn't think he was a stalker. I was like, you know, this just kind of makes me uncomfortable. I'm not interested in talking to you. So then I started calling the water boy, and he would walk across the way from the gas station over to this coffee cart and just kind of hang out in the hut with me. Because I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I was like, oh, you know, he's just being a little too friendly. So the water boy would come inside the hut and just stand there, and I would just like, just can you just stand in the hut with me so he doesn't like try to talk to me and stuff. The guy would see the water boy in there and say, okay, like I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, great. Every time I would see his car get in line, he'd be like, you know, the second or third car in line, I would call the water boy and he would come by again, and he would just stay in the hut with me until the guy came up. I made his drink, he paid, have a good day, and he would just move on because he would see the water boy in there. And he'd already said a couple creepy things to me, because there was 2 huts that I worked at, and one of them, we had that gas station, so the water boy would come and walk over and he would hang out with me. But there was also another hut where no one was around. You're isolated by yourself. If I wanted the water boy or one of the guys to come by, it would take like 10 minutes for them to be able to get there. So it's 10 minutes of being alone. So I worked there a few times, and I would see his car get in line and I would hide in the back of the hut. While the other girl went and served him his coffee, he would ask where I was, and she would say, oh, she went somewhere with her boyfriend, because he would see my car and he would know to come. He brought flowers. It was like a dozen red roses. He gave it to the girl to give to me, and I'm like, no. And then he would do the same thing. He would try to bring me flowers, and I would always say, no, I'm sorry, I cannot accept these. Please do not bring me flowers. Don't want your flowers. This went on not for that long. It was a few weeks. You know, he didn't come every single day. He would just come and try to talk to me, and I would try to hide in the hut. And I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because I'm just like super laid back. I'm just super chill. I was like, oh, if I mention this to my boss or my parents, I don't want to mention this to them. I don't want to worry them. There was one day where I was coming out of work and I was pulling out, and there's like this roundabout in North Pole. So I was about to go into the roundabout, waiting for cars to turn, and I see him, like he's turning into the roundabout. He locks eyes with me, and I was like, oh crap. So then I get on the highway. I'm like, I'm gonna get out, get away from this guy. Turns around the roundabout and starts following me onto the highway. But since I had like that little like extra boost, I just like gun it. So I'm like going down the highway, and then I just like whip a U-turn when I can, and I start going the other way, and I see his car pass, and then I go, I should have went to the police station, but I didn't. I pulled into the grocery store. Oh God, I stayed there for like 30 minutes, just kind of like thinking, oh shit, this person is now following me. What am I gonna do? At that point, I called my boss while I was at the grocery store, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on, and this person is now following me. She was like, you should have told us sooner. What took you so long? It shouldn't have taken this guy to start following you in your car to like say something and speak up, which I agree with. I should have said something sooner. She was like, you need to tell your parents. Like, you need to tell your parents now. So I went home and I told my parents, I was like, hey, so there's this guy, he's been really creepy at work. You know, today he started following me in his car. Like, what? So he calls up like the chief of police, and it's like, who is this guy? This is his name. I need to know where he lives, and this. Having someone follow you is really freaking scary. And at this point, he had left some panties in my tip cup. I remember one time he brought me a strawberry and asked me to bite into it in front of him, and I was like, one time he asked me to meet him in a dark room that was lightly lighted and all kinds of stuff. And when he would come to the window, like I said, I would just try to hide, or I would just basically just try to hide. I wasn't like overly nice. I was cordial, like you should when you're talking to customers. But like I said, I should have been a little bit more, I should have came forward a little sooner, looking back. Once the guy got in line, there was a couple that owned the hut, and the husband walks over and talks to the guy. He's being very calm, and he's like, hey, I don't want you coming to this establishment anymore. You're making my girls uncomfortable by you coming and bringing flowers and saying these weird things, and we just don't want you here anymore. So the guy, they just start yelling. They're just like screaming, like back and forth with each other and blah, blah. And this guy was like 6'5", probably 250, and had this like mean look on his face all the time. Like he just looked scary mean. They call the cops. They put me in the gas station, basically like lock me inside so that he can't like see me or come around me. And so I'm just like sitting there like watching my boss and this guy like screaming at each other. I mean, you don't know how crazy this guy is, if he has a gun. So I'm sitting there like, oh my God, please don't pull out a gun. Like, I hope everything's okay. Where are the cops? Why aren't they showing up? So anyway, the guy ends up leaving, the cops never show up, yay. They issue a no trespassing order on the guy, and the guy gets it, he gets subpoenaed, the no trespassing thing. Literally the next day, he comes to the coffee cart. He gets in line, and I'm like shaking, because I'm like, I am so scared. He has like a no trespassing thing, like this is like completely like inappropriate, what are you doing? So I put newspapers on the window so that he can't see inside, and he's banging on the window, saying like, I know you're in there, why aren't you talking to me? Open the window, I just want to talk to you, I brought you flowers. And he's very like aggressive while he's saying on this, and like banging on the window, and oh, it was really scary. So my boss walks over and he locks the door, and he goes out there to talk to him, and he's like, cops are on the way, like you are not supposed to be doing this, like you need to get out of here, and blah blah. So I'm just sitting there in the hut, like in the back. I mean, it's not very big, it's like, oh, I don't know, 10 feet by 10 feet. Like, okay, so this is ugly. Like, if this guy is crazy enough to come here after he's been, you know, subpoenaed a no trespassing zone, what else is he capable of doing? So I'm just freaking out in the back waiting for the cops to come. I kind of peek over like the window to, you know, I was like, I want to make sure, like if he pulls a gun out, like where am I gonna run to, and like where am I gonna go? Like if a gun is pulled, if something ugly happens. But I kind of look, and they're yelling at each other, and then he sees me and he points at me and he says, I'll see you at the other hut where I have no protection. So that was, God, that was scary. At that point, they didn't put me at that hut where you had like no like security and no type of like person. It's like a 10-minute drive for someone to get there. So I was not allowed to work at that hut. So I had to start hiding my car. Usually at a coffee cart, there's like not really much around there, but I would have to pull in, and I would have to hide behind the building so that he was not able to see my car. I mean, you could still see my car. People that pulled in were like, "Are you trying to hide your car from someone?" Cops went to his house. They arrested him for trespassing when he was not allowed and causing a scene and all that. And I don't remember how long he was in jail for, but while he was in jail, my boss made me go down to the courthouse and file a restraining order. When I got there, I let them know what was going on, and they said, "Oh no, you have to file a stalking order. That is not a restraining order, that is a stalking order." I forget what exactly the difference is. It was something like a stalking order, like they don't give you addresses to where they can't be, because they didn't want him knowing where I lived, even though they thought he already knew where I lived. And I have to go to court. So I was sitting there with my dad and my boss, and they were like, "There's no way this guy's gonna show up to defend himself. I mean, we have like all this stuff, he's been arrested and da da da." So in walks the guy, and he sits there, and they're asking me, you know, like what my story was, like why I was getting the stalking order, and I'm telling the judge, but I'm super nervous. I'm pretty sure I left like half the things out because I was so like, I've never talked to a judge before. And the judge was like, "So he basically just creeped you out then, right?" And I'm like, I just, you know. And then the guy goes up to the front, and he asks if it's okay to read a letter to me out loud. The judge says yes, and he reads the most disgusting letter talking about basically like professing his love for me and how, you know, he was following me in his car. He went to see me every day because he thought we were dating, and he wanted to court me and ask my dad's permission to marry me. And him reading that letter while I'm sitting right next to my dad was just like super embarrassing too, because it's like this like man like professing his love for me, and I'm just like So after he read the letter, he finished reading the letter, and the judge granted a stalking order, like stay away, like don't come near her, you are insane. That got passed, which was good. After that, I was brought back into court a second time, but I remember I went to court 3 times for it. 4th time, I remember I got called in, and it was, he was trying to go against the state saying, "Hey, you guys did this incorrectly, like I shouldn't have had a stalking order." So then there was a jury there this time, so I had to go in and tell my story again, and what exactly he did, what happened as a witness, and I had to tell it to like a whole jury. So yeah, that is my stalking order. He did go to jail, and I think he went to jail for like 30 days. I do remember how I felt after the whole situation, or during. You know, my parents didn't want me leaving the house after a certain time. Like for the first time in my life, I started having a curfew, and I was an adult at that point. I just remember the feeling of always feeling watched. I felt like I was violated. Your freedom is kind of taken away a little bit during all that, because, you know, like the person is following you. I was scared to go anywhere by myself, and if I did, you know, I was always looking over my back, like, is he there, is he there, is he gonna show up? And that's why, you know, for a while, like my parents were like, "Please don't leave the house." I felt like I was suffocating almost. Violates your life, you know? It's like all of a sudden, like you don't feel comfortable going to like a hockey game anymore, or going to get ice cream, or going to work, or just like being at home, you know? Like I felt uncomfortable not being around any windows, because I always wanted to be like somewhere close to a window, so I can always like make sure that like I don't see like that car coming down the driveway. And so, God, it was scary. Obviously I got through it, I'm fine, but I feel like for a little while afterwards, like I had a hard time not looking over my back every like 10 seconds. I did move to San Antonio, I think that same year, and I remember I was going on a run, and as I was coming like up to my apartments, like right in front of the apartment was the same exact car he drove, and the feeling that I got, like, I mean, my heart just like dropped into my stomach, and I felt sick, and I was by myself. Like I had like an anxiety attack for a second, and like I thought I was like in a nightmare. It took me like a couple minutes to just like compose myself and remember that that guy is in Alaska and he doesn't know where you're at and nowhere close, and I don't know. But you know, that was 6 years ago. So I am obviously doing way better now. But for a long time, I had a problem telling people where I lived. I mean, I still do. I don't really tell a lot of people where I live. But even friends that I was friends with for like a year, 2 years, a lot of times I would meet people wherever they were at, or I would meet them and be like, "Oh, just pick me up from this hookah lounge. I'm just gonna park my car there. You can just pick me up from there." Because I was scared to let people know where I lived. I felt safe you know, in my apartment when I was there, and I felt uncomfortable letting anyone else there, like knowing where I lived, and definitely a scary situation. And like I said, I really haven't, this is like my first time talking about it, and I'm just like kind of nervous because it was a very scary situation. Thankfully, I mean, it's not like anybody, you know, died or got hurt in the process, but, you know, it could have gotten to that level if I hadn't had my boss come to me and say, hey, like, this isn't right, this isn't okay, you need to do something, we need to do something. And so I guess, like, if you have been in a similar situation, or you know someone that has, or someone's going through it right now, you know, I definitely suggest like speaking up about it, because I really wish I would have back then. So yeah, it was freaking scary. But hope you guys liked this stalker story. If you guys have been in a similar situation, you know someone that has, or someone going through it, comment below, let me know. I'd love to hear other people's stories. Makes you feel like, you know, you're not the only person it's happened to. Thankfully, I had a lot of amazing support during that time, and you know, my boss and my parents were amazing, and they like helped me through everything. And so yeah, like I said, if you guys have been in a similar situation or something has happened to you, definitely comment below. I'd love to hear, you know, your guys' stories and what has happened to you and all that. So let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and maybe I'll tell more of these stories, who knows. Bye guys.